Stephen Miller in the rogues gallery of government appointments that Donald Trump served up was one of the true despicable figures who, and this is quite Trumpian, never backs down. So following the debate, he got into it with a Latino reporter about Venezuelan crime rates. It's an odd thing to go to war over, but essentially, and we're going to play it for you now, essentially, he's arguing we're getting all that crime from Venezuela. You understand, if ever there's an incident and it involves Venezuelans, now it's all about Venezuela and Venezuelan illegal immigrants. This, again, is not to trivialize or in any way dismiss the legitimate immigration issue that this country has. But to make this Venezuelan immigrant problem the rallying point for a bunch of issues associated with crime may be also a little unfair. So he says, this is essentially, I'm going to play it for you, but I just want to prep you. He says that crime is rising here, these Venezuelan gangs are coming, and corresponding crime rates are dropping in Venezuela. And so the Venezuelan journalist, or Latino journalist, I think he's from Venezuela, maybe he's not, was associated with, his comeback was, well, when you say that crime is down 60% in Venezuela, is that a figure that, where are you getting that figure? Is that an official government figure? Because they make up the government figures in Venezuela the same way Trump makes up statistics on stage at a debate. I mean, it's totally just completely invented. So that was the fact that this reporter wouldn't let go of, and Miller just loses it. And you see the utter contemptuousness with which Miller greets the press. Go ahead,
because he
Albert.
can't. He's not used to being questioned. He can't bring the facts.
Indeed.
What will happen? All these
Day one.
all these criminal migrants that have been flooded in the country are going to be the first to get thrown out of here. I mean, you've seen case after case, these heartbreaking tragedies. Those ones are going to get found and deported first. And look at this Venezuelan gang. You have a Venezuelan gang that is taking over entire apartment buildings in Aurora, Colorado. And that's responsible, by the way, for some of the most heinous crimes that have happened all over the United States. The crime rate in Venezuela is down, I believe, a little bit over 60% over the last several years.
Are you trusting the official figures from the Venezuelan dictatorship?
Let's put it this way. If you're a dictator of a poor country with a high crime rate, wouldn't you send your criminals to our open border?
That wasn't my question. Are you
But
trusting the
my-
figures of
Those
the
are Maduro
dictatorships?
numbers.
Those are Maduro numbers.
Believing Maduro numbers.
I am believing that it is in the interest of a criminal dictator to let his criminals out of their jails and come to our
Do
country.
you have numbers, real numbers, not
I have
dictatorship
numbers.
numbers?
The Venezuelan gangs that have you've seen the CCTV footage. I have a question. Who do you think? Answer me
My
this.
family is from Venezuela.
Yes.
I know very well the situation of Caracas and many other
Right, and
cities.
tell me, who were the people with the high-powered rifles in the hallway of that apartment building? Who were they?
They were gangsters from Venezuela.
Right. No American community.
But I was asking to you about figures, numbers,
What I'm saying
facts.
to you is the facts are the dead bodies. The facts are
You said that Caracas has a
facts are-
lowest crime
the
rate
facts
than the
are-
USA.
the facts are the mutilated bodies. The facts are the people in the morgues that are dead.
I was asking you about Caracas and the numbers in Caracas. Are you trusting the numbers of the dictatorship
I am
to state what
trusting
they-
the fact that Kamala Harris is
Why are you
letting
yelling?
illegal immigrants into this country who are raping and murdering children.
I had been very
Do you
respectful.
know-
Why are
do
you yelling?
Do you know who Jocelyn Ungary is? Do you know who she is?
Do you know how
Tell me
many
who she is.
people
Who
is
is she?
experiencing
Who is
violence in Caracas?
Who is she? Who is Laken Riley?
Why are
who
you
is
yelling
she?
again?
Because I'm yelling because children are being raped and murdered.
I was just
by
asking for
illegal
figures,
immigrants.
and you have not
Children
replied
are
to me
being
about
raped
those
and
figures.
murdered. Do you know who Kayla
Do
Hamilton
you trust
is?
the numbers of
Do you know
Nicolas
her
Maduro?
story?
I'm asking
I
again.
trust a ruthless dictator will empty his prisons and send their criminals to our country.
So you trust his
The
numbers?
the most dangerous gang in Venezuela is
You
now
trust
occupying
Nicolas
apartment
Maduro?
buildings. I trust that he does not want his criminals to be.
So you believe in his numbers?
I believe he's sending his criminals to our country.
And do
Do
you
you
think
not-
that the crime rate in
Do you not
Venezuela
be-
have
wait, Do you
decreased?
not believe the law enforcement reports of Venezuelan gangs in this country?
I was asking for
Are
the Venezuelan
gangs-
government
are
figures,
Venezuelan
not
gangs
the
in this
figures
country
here.
Or not? Are Venezuelan gangs in this country or not? Yes or no?
What
Yes or
are
no?
the
Yes or
figures
no?
that you
Yes or
say
no?
to say
Yes
that
or no?
in Caracas
Yes or
the
no?
number is
Are
lower than in the
Venezuelan gangs-
USA?
Are Venezuelan gangs in this country or not?
So you don't have numbers.
Are Venezuela? You know who has numbers? The Department of Homeland Security. You can ask Mayorkas for numbers. You can ask Director Ray for the numbers.
Sir,
I'm telling you.
You said
You think
that in
Nicolas
Venezuela
Maduro-
the crime rate is lower than the
because-
USA.
Yes, because the
What are
criminals
your
here
numbers? That's
now.
my question.
Because the criminals are here now.
Those are Maduro's numbers.
I can tell you again that Border Patrol agents are encountering
Do you
thousands
trust
of gang members.
Maduro numbers?
I trust the border agents in our country,
But
and
they
I
are
hope
not saying
you
that
have the
Caracas has a
fundamental-
lower crime rate.
Children are dead, and you are wasting my time.
No, I am not
Children
wasting your
are
time.
being raped.
I'm
Do
asking
you
for
have
facts
any
as a
remorse for
journalist.
do you have any remorse for the dead children? Do you care at all about the dead children?
Absolutely.
Then that's what I want to leave you with: is that Donald Trump
I
will
was
come
just
to
asking for
office.
figures.
Here's what's going to happen: Donald Trump is going to be elected president, and the migrant gangs are going to be sent home. Children's lives will be saved, and you know who will benefit the most? Are the working class Hispanic communities that are besieged by gang violence.
So you
Where
don't have
Public
figures.
schools that are being overtaken by migrant gangs. You have MS-13 that is brutalizing children. You have Kayla Hamilton, who was a 20-year-old autistic girl who was raped and murdered, beaten to death. That will end. That will stop, and our children's lives will be saved. That is the most virtuous thing that can possibly be done. We are going to save the lives of our children. We will not let Kamala Harris condemn them to a life of misery, suffering, and death.
I
Thank
have
you.
not replied my question.
Well, I mean,
Why are you yelling?
Just in love with that reporter. His name is Jose Maria Del Pino. He works for NTN24.
mhm.
And he was like a dog with a bone, would not let it go. And I loved
Yeah.
it.
No, it's true. Now he's Chilean or so. I was trying to see or Colombian. I think he may be Colombian. Is that what the chat was saying? I don't know, but you know, if maybe you can see in his bio. But I believe he is at least in according to the chat.
Google it.
He's a Colombian. So, but to the point. First of all, I love his accent. I mean, I'm just a sucker for accents anyway, and he just speaks so beautifully. He speaks English so beautifully with the Latino accent. God, I just melt for that. But I will say that there is a good news, bad news part of this, and if I could just comment on it super quickly. The good news is that Miller seems unhinged, and he seems ridiculously jihadist in his ways that he views the immigrant community, the us versus them, blaming the immigrant community for the ills associated with crime in this country is just a truly twisted, perverted way to look at a legitimate issue, which is the border. There he is, Jose Maria Del Pino. Is he's Chilean. There it is. Okay, Chilean DC correspondent. In any case, the bad news is this. This is an issue that lands with a lot of people, as you know. When you look at polling and you talk to most Americans, the economy and the border are the two things that really do resonate as issues with most Americans. And so, even though Miller is unhinged, and even though Miller, I would say, lost that exchange because he was inventing numbers the same way that the Trump administration was inventing numbers for the time they were in office, and now Trump continues to invent numbers when he's on stage, as I say, it still showcases and underscores an issue that does resonate with many people, which is the immigrant problem. And they would digest that in this way. They'd say, well, his numbers aren't important. The important thing is it's an issue. And I want a president and an administration that's committed to doing something about that issue. So that's how it can play and reverberate even after this exchange has been made fun of and has been seen across Twitter and Instagram, et cetera, and other social media, TikTok, et cetera. I'll ask Michael Schur about it in the second hour of the show. Michael will join us, as we mentioned, and I'll ask him. He has a pretty good barometer of the political effects of things like this, but that's the way I see it. I see it as good news, bad news. Yeah.
beauty of what Mr. Pino did there was that he could have pulled out more than one of the statements that Miller was making and asked for them to be factually corroborated. Because when he was going off on his tangent, he talked about this Venezuelan gang taking over an apartment complex in Colorado. That story has been completely debunked. He was spewing all of these things that were wrong or had been, have already had holes poked in them, these ridiculous stories. The fact that he glommed on to this one fact and just didn't let it go, it would have been lost if he had asked for corroboration on all the different lies being told there. But because it was a simple, do you have the figures? Do you have the figures? It was brilliant the way he did it. Loved it.
Yeah, it reminded me a bit of so again, do you have a plan for healthcare? You've been talking about it for a while, and then you get
I have concepts of a plan.
The concepts of a plan. So, hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell, you'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.